On December 24, 2008, the Ortega family invited all 5 of their adult children and their families to the low-crime, quiet community of Covina, California, approximately 22 miles east of Los Angeles. Joseph and Alice Ortega both loved Christmas, and it was their favorite time of year to spend with their friends and family. Joseph and Alice, being in the later years of their lives, had 5 adult children. Their 2 sons, James and Charles, and 3 daughters, Leticia, Alicia, and Sylvia. But this Christmas Eve, with the party in full swing, card games in motion, and the love and laughter of the Ortega family and guests echoing throughout the house, a knock on the door would then alter the lives of everyone inside and leave a painful reminder of what one evil person can do on what's supposed to be one of the happiest, loving, and giving days of the year. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Wicked and Wild, where we cover all types of true crime, whether solved or unsolved, terrifying or tragic, or just plain wicked and wild. I'm your host, Tyler, here to give you exactly what you came for. So, with that being said, please like and subscribe for more weekly videos, and let's get right into it. This is the true case of the COVINA Christmas Massacre. Now, to understand how such an evil event could happen on Christmas, we need to introduce you to the Grinch. And our Grinch's name is Bruce Jeffrey Pardo. Bruce was born on March 23, 1963, in Los Angeles, California. Bruce grew up in the San Fernando Valley, attending and graduating from John H. Polytechnic High School in Los Angeles. After graduating high school, Bruce would go on to study computer science at California State Northridge. Now, with Bruce being a fairly bright man, after graduating college, he would go on to secure a job as a software engineer at Jet Propulsion's laboratory, but later switching and settling as an electrical engineer for ITT Electronic Systems. In 1988, Bruce would meet, fall in love, and become engaged to a fellow employee, Elena Lucano. The day of Bruce and Elena's wedding in June of 1989, everybody would be patiently waiting for the groom to arrive, but Bruce would never show, forcing his bride-to-be to cancel the wedding. Even with Bruce not showing up to their own wedding, Bruce and Elena would stay together as an on-again, off-again couple until a tragic accident would change both of their lives and forever traumatize Bruce. In the year 2001, Bruce and Elena would be together with their 13-month-old son Matthew, until Elena would make a quick run out for groceries, leaving Matthew alone with Father Bruce. While Elena was out making that quick run for groceries, and with Bruce distracted, Matthew was actually able to escape and crawl out of a patio door and unfortunately slip into a pool. When Elena would later arrive, she would arrive to Bruce holding their unresponsive 13-month-old son, which they would then rush to the hospital, where paramedics would resuscitate their young son. The gravely traumatized child was then airlifted to the world-renowned Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, and that's where Bruce and Elena would receive the devastating news that Matthew would suffer from permanent brain damage, unfortunately causing him to become a paraplegic. Understandably, this tragic accident put a lot of strain on Bruce and Elena's relationship, and less than 6 months later, Bruce and Elena would call off the relationship, and after that, Bruce would never see his son or Elena ever again. Later in 2004, a co-worker would introduce Bruce to a beautiful 40-year-old mother of 3, Sylvia Ortega, and the new couple would hit it off right from the start, later on January 29, 2006, becoming married. The newly married couple would purchase a 3-bedroom, $452,000 home in Montrose, California. They would attend church regularly, and from the surface, they would seem like your average happy California family. But behind the scenes, Bruce and Sylvia's relationship was under a lot of financial stress. Bruce even expected Sylvia to use her own finances to pay for her own 3 children. Bruce's mother, Nancy, who very much liked Sylvia, decided to tell her about his previous relationship and his son Matthew, who Sylvia had no prior knowledge of. All of the stress in their marriage eventually built up over time, and in April of 2008, Sylvia would ultimately file for divorce against Bruce, which would send him into a spiraling depression. Just 2 months later, after Sylvia filing for divorce, Bruce would go on to purchase his first gun, a 9mm handgun. In June of that same month, Bruce was ordered to pay $1,800 a month in spousal support. Bruce would go on to write his first check, which would eventually bounce, and make no further attempts to make any payments. To make matters worse, Bruce was fired from his job on July 31st for billing false work hours. Bruce, because of being fired and not quitting, was then denied for unemployment, which sent him further into his depression. He then would go on to buy 4 more handguns in between the months of August and November of that same year. He also acquired a DeWalt compressor, a 50-foot hose, and a tank of high-octane fuel, which he would then combine and use as his homemade fuel sprayer. 1 week before Christmas, on December 18, 2008, Bruce and Sylvia's divorce would then be final. Later that week, on Christmas Eve, Bruce was then supposed to attend a midnight mass at his church that he volunteered to be an usher for the event, but Bruce would never show up. Instead, at about 11:30 p.m., and dressed as Santa Claus, Bruce would make his way to his former in-laws' house where he knew his ex-wife Sylvia would be inside. After making his way to his former in-laws' house, Bruce would knock on the door, and unfortunately, Sylvia's 8-year-old niece, Katrina, would be the one to answer. After Katrina opened the door, excited to see Santa Claus, she then rushed towards him to give him a hug, and in a split second, without a second thought or any hesitation, Bruce would then up his firearm and shoot Katrina directly in the face. After shooting Katrina, Bruce then turned his weapon to the rest of the frightened family members and guests and started to fire indiscriminately. Sylvia's brothers, James and Charles, would be the next one shot, with Charles yelling, "It's Bruce," before falling to the floor. Both brothers, though seriously hurt and weakened from their wounds, would both try to fight Bruce to get the guns away from him, but would ultimately fail. In complete fear, Father Joseph, Mother Alice, and their 3 daughters, Sylvia, Alicia, and Leticia, along with James's wife Teresa, would then go on to hide under the tables. Bruce, then coldly with 2 other handguns in his possession, began to shoot everyone hiding under the tables, including his ex-wife Sylvia, execution style. Bruce, now feeling he had done enough shooting, began to unwrap the gift that he brought with him to the home, revealing a homemade fuel sprayer. Determined to cause the max amount of damage, Bruce began spraying racing fuel around the home, intent on lighting it with a flare. But before Bruce could continue with his evil intentions, flames from 2 separate fireplaces triggered an explosion, and Bruce, hurt but survived, decided to flee the home, dropping a pair of fake sunglasses and a Santa hat in the process. He then jumped into his Dodge Caliber rental car that he rented a day after his divorce was finalized and drove 30 miles to Sylmar, where his brother lived, parking about a block from his brother's home. And although Bruce survived the explosion that he had caused at his former in-laws' house, he did not leave unscathed. His Santa suit had started to melt to his skin, and he was suffering severely from third-degree burns. Leticia, being the only adult child of the Ortega family to survive, took her 8-year-old wounded daughter Katrina and ran to a neighbor's house to phone 911.
What's your address? Ma'am, I understand. I need to know your address.
When he shot, I heard the shots and they were like poppers, and I wasn't sure what it was, so everyone started panicking and running, so we all dove under the dining room. Some of us dove, some of us left. I don't know. My daughter's been shot. She was shot in the face on the side, and she's bleeding.
I know. I let the officers know. The officers are making sure it's safe for the paramedics to
I
come
need a
in.
bandage, please. Please come immediately.
What is in your house?
Immediately. I don't know who else is alive.
I know, ma'am. Just stay on the phone with me, okay?
My whole family, there's 30 people, 25 people.
I know. COVINA 911.
Yes, I'm on Northwest Avenue.
Uh-huh.
I'm a homicidal guy, and he shot my little cousin right now.
Okay, can you tell if there's anybody injured? Because we have fire department and officers en route.
My mom's house is on the...
Ma'am, the fire department's there, okay? What's he wearing?
What is he wearing, please? What is he wearing? Please tell me. My nephew... What is he wearing now? He changed his clothes from Santa Claus clothes.
Okay, let me know what he's wearing.
Black clothes.
All
He's
black?
knocking on neighbor's doors.
Leticia was not the only one to phone emergency services that night. Between the amount of people inside the residence and neighbors witnessing the flames engulfing the Ortega house, many people called the police to report that a massacre had just taken place. Bruce, still in his rental and parked in his brother's neighborhood, started to carefully peel away the shredded Santa suit that had melted to his skin. Bruce then took what was left of the Santa Claus suit to then booby-trap his Dodge rental car. If the Santa suit was moved, a tripwire would then set a flash, exploding 200 rounds of ammunition. Later, still in that early morning, at about 3:30 a.m., Bruce's brother would return home to find the mass murderer, his brother, sprawled out on his living room couch, already dead, having shot himself in the mouth. The explosion that Bruce had caused at his former in-law's house had caused flames to roar 40 to 50 feet and took 80 firefighters approximately an hour and a half to extinguish the flames. It is widely believed that Bruce's original plan after the massacre was to escape, having contacted a high school friend in Illinois and even booking a flight from Los Angeles, but because of the serious wounds that he suffered from the explosion at his former in-law's house, decided to change his mind. Bruce's body was also found with $17,000 in cash cling-wrapped to his leg, further supporting the theory that Bruce's original plan was to make a getaway. This atrocity on Christmas Eve would wound 3 people and take the lives of 9 innocent people, who, due to the intensity of the fire, could only be identified by medical and dental records. Among the deceased victims that night lay Bruce's ex-wife Sylvia, both of the Ortega parents, Alice and Joseph, Sylvia's sister Alicia and her son Michael, Sylvia's brothers James and Charles, and both of their wives Teresa and Sherry. Among the 3 wounded survivors, incredibly, lay Sylvia's 8-year-old niece Katrina, who was shot in the face and the first victim in this horrific nightmare, a 16-year-old girl who was shot in the back, and a 20-year-old girl who suffered a broken ankle from jumping from the second-story floor during the chaos. 15 years after this horrific tragedy, being the only adult child of the Ortega family to survive, Leticia, and now her much older daughter Katrina, worked very hard to keep their family's traditions alive, along with their much happier appreciated memories. The surviving family members and the surviving guests that were there that night still meet for dinner to exchange gifts and share memories. But now, on Christmas Eves, the surviving family members, instead of church, spend their time at the cemetery where their loved ones are buried. This tragedy did not break this family. One nephew who lost both parents in the massacre became the guardian of his 3 younger siblings, and Leticia and her husband decided to adopt her sister's youngest daughter. The rest of the younger surviving children that were there that night were all sent to camps that help with grief and trauma. This was an absolute tragedy that affected the lives of many people and the community of Covina. Mental health is a very real thing, even though I do not use it as an excuse for this evil man or his evil act. Although this story mostly focuses on one man and his evil acts, the real people who should be remembered in the story are the victims and the family. Everyone who perished that night still had many years to live, many more memories to share, and many more Christmases to give. But please, if you or anyone you know is suffering from depression, please reach out and get the help that you need. Everybody has bad days and hard times, but life is full of beautiful people, amazing things, and there's always brighter days ahead. So guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my first YouTube video. I'm going to continue to release 1 video a week, maybe in the future even more, but please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know of stories that you want me to cover, and let me know how I can improve. I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. I put a lot of time and research into this. I absolutely love true crime, and I hope to see you guys on the next video.